You've got Goose, you got CryptoDale, and you're entering into the core. Brought to you by Zelcore Plus, the one cryptocurrency wallet for all your custody and trading needs. For more information about Zelcore, check out Zel.network. CryptoDale, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Been a big fan of Zell ever since Dan kind of had a previous adventure that he was doing and kind of ran a miner for me. So I kind of got hooked up with him somehow. He came on Crypto Street Podcast, which I'm a co-host of, and been a big fan of Zell ever since.
Well, I'll tell you what, the feeling is mutual here. Really enjoying what you've been doing with Crypto Street. And if people want to take a look at your channel, where do they go?
So they can, any podcast app like SoundCloud, Stitcher, all those good ones, Spotify, and then you just want to head over to YouTube. You can just search Crypto Street Podcast and check it out over there. We've got about 150 episodes.
Well, here's the thing. I want to talk a little bit about your avatar. It's an image of John C. Riley, right? So, can you tell us a little bit about that? What's with that meme, huh?
Yeah, so I started kind of looking at crypto Twitter, got into the space about mid 2017. So I was on my personal account and following all these people, and then I was tweeting about Bitcoin and just other shit coins that I was in, and all my friends started bugging me about it. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to start my own account. And I saw people with like cartoon characters and whatnot. So I first started out with a name that I have maybe only told one or two people about it. Not real proud of it. And then I kind of thought one day, I was just like, if I ever were to gain a following like some of these accounts, I don't want to be known as what my name was, which I'm not going to share. So then I was just kind of thinking, and one of my favorite movies is Step Brothers. So I thought I looked for, Dale Doback or Brennan Huff, and then I thought, okay, which one of these two guys kind of aligns more with maybe my personality? And I kind of felt like Dale Doback did. So that's kind of how that took off. And it's funny because when we're at conferences with Killer Whale and Prince, I mean, they know my name and my real name and stuff like that, but they still call me Dale. So it's just kind of crazy how you make this alter ego and it follows you in real life.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely relate because I've been called the Goose for, I don't know. I mean, it feels like 2 decades, man, like ever since I discovered Grey Goose vodka. And I don't touch this stuff anymore, but let's just say I had my fair share, so much so that there is definitely an alter ego that goes with it.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you listen to the podcast and follow me, you know that I'm a big advocate of Busch Light. So I would rather be called Dale than Bush. So
yeah. For obvious reasons, I'm sure, but
exactly.
Well, that's great. Hey, funny movie, definitely, and a great way to come up with, like you said, that sort of alter ego when you say, okay, what qualities do I sort of share with this particular character? Yeah, that works.
Exactly.
I like it.
Thanks.
So you want to take a look at some of the top 5 gainers in crypto? We might as well do like a little top 5 and bottom 5 here.
We kind of we're looking at these beforehand, before the show started, but let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's do a little refresh here and see what kind of magic is happening in crypto land. And at the very top, the biggest gainer for at least today is Lambda at 41%. Not quite a hockey stick, but definitely a shot up for sure.
Yeah, it looks like Lambda don't even really know much about it or anything. And to be honest, probably the first time I've heard about it, but it's got a market cap of about 131 million, which, everyone says if you read anything that most of these altcoins need to die. And, no offense to Lambda, I don't know anything about it. Maybe it does have a purpose, but hopefully it's not in that category.
Yeah, it says here it's an Ethereum token. So
okay,
there must be doing something right, I guess, if people are interested in it. So
yeah, you don't get 131 million market cap just doing nothing.
Right.
I mean, you could.
Yeah, I always like to, especially if you're on CoinMarketCap, just click on a few of the links here. Check out the website. look at their source code, or if they give you a link to GitHub, just kind of see what kind of activities going on there, because that's usually a really good sign, or at least a good tell of what's happening. And if you see they're very active on GitHub, or they appear very active on other areas, then maybe it's something to do a little bit more research on. But yeah, just always interesting to see these little spikes. Now, of course, that's followed by another big one. This is one that I think more people would know, is KuCoin shares, which is up 21%. And that's more of a hockey stick kind of jump. And their market cap's about the same.
Yeah, it is. It's about just shy of 140 million. These exchange tokens are really kind of, I think, what's going to be the big movers, and if we ever get another bull run. You saw Binance BNB do that early spring, I guess, had that nice little rise. KuCoin shares, maybe it'll be that next one to pop up.
I guess time will tell. And speaking of Binance, with the whole Binance DEX thing, have you ever tried that out inside of Zelcore?
I have not, and Dan was kind of busting my ass the other day to get on that and try it, but I need to do that. He was saying good things.
Yeah, well, it's its own user interface, which is really cool, because if you've used, when you're inside Zelcore, you've got all the wallets, and that's very basic. Here's your receive button and your send button. Okay. But if you want to do a little bit of trading on the DEX, now here's the thing. The DEX is only listing coins that are on the BNB chain, right? So that's where you run into the limitations, because you go, well, what are these? They're essentially their own Ethereum style token. And I think the goal there is to basically tokenize a one-to-one representation. So for instance, if you want to trade the actual crypto, they will issue a certain number of BNB tokens for that particular coin on the DEX, and then they're trading that on the DEX. You know what I mean? So there's a couple extra steps going on behind the scenes there that I don't think they're anywhere close to implementing fully just yet, because obviously they still have the main exchange, and the DEX is more of the experimental side of things. So KuCoin, on the other hand, I don't know that they're necessarily going to be venturing into the decentralized space. I don't think they care. I think they're just. I don't
think so. Like Binance has the take, in my opinion, of wanting to be the go-to exchange. And maybe that was more so before they announced they were going to ban the United States. But so in order for them to be that go-to crypto exchange, you need to have that decentralization aspect of the exchanges. So I think that's kind of their move to do that. And KuCoin's probably okay with where they're sitting. Obviously you always want more market share of the centralized exchange, but maybe they're going to focus solely on that and hope that they, Binance maybe spreads themselves too thin and has a goof up on the Binance exchange, so that they can kind of take some of theirs, and that could be banning the U.S. Only time will tell.
That's a very good point. That's right. And here's another thing. This is kind of misleading when you think about the name KuCoin shares, right? At what point does the SEC get involved and say, that is a share in your company? Is it just a token that gives you a discount for trades, or is it actually a share in KuCoin? So that will definitely, be something to consider moving forward for at least for the United States markets.
So to piggyback on that, here's what it says about KuCoin shares. Holders of the token are able to reap the rewards from the success of the exchange, as 50% of its overall trading fee revenue is shared with holders through the token. Rewards received in the form of dividends are proportionate to the amount of KuCoin shares one holds. So maybe that is what they're after.
There's a fine line between a security and a revenue share, right?
It really is.
I think they're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and no one come seek advice from me, because I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, same here. I'm like, it's just pointing the finger. That's all.
That's exactly right. Keep the SEC away from you, and all should be fine.
Yeah, that's how we feel over at Zell. We're always looking out for what's the right thing to do for that particular jurisdiction, and we don't want to ruffle any feathers. We want to make sure everything is above board. All right, so moving along here, next one down is IOST, which is up 5%. So nothing too major there, but definitely a little boost. I don't know what's
A little
happening with
bit blip there.
IOST.
The one thing that I don't know about how you feel about this, Goose, but one thing that I always look at is total supply, and they've got a total supply of 21 billion. Usually, I don't like to mess with coins that have that big of a supply. Just for the record.
Hey man, I'm with you. I remember when Ravencoin came out and they were like, "Hey, we're going to make it 21 billion."
Yeah.
And now we've got
Yep.
how many 10,000 just assets that don't mean anything?
Yep.
That
Hey,
somehow
keep the chatter on Ravencoin till minimum. We'll be talking about them in the next category.
Oh boy, you're already looking ahead. So, all right, number 4, Unus Sed Leo, up 4.93%. Now, here's one I have absolutely no clue about. Unus Sed Leo.
So this is Leo is what Bitfinex, if I'm understanding this correctly, this Unus Sed Leo is what that Bitfinex token when they were short on the Tether, I believe.
Oh yeah.
This is that burn. They funded the loss on the Tether, so they're burning these tokens over time. There's a whole entire burn schedule on this. I've got a couple buddies. Prince, who's a co-host on the podcast, was pretty big on this, and then Crypto Bobby, he has his I can't think of what he just started a new crypto recruiting company. Basically, it's oh my god, proof of work. Or proof of talent. Check him out on Twitter. Sorry about that. It's at proof of talent. He works with crypto companies that hire people, or he helps them get people hired. I'm sorry. So they're big proponents of this.
Crypto
They both
headhunters, man. It's who would have thought,
yeah,
right? But like that's where
it's
we're
there,
at now.
Man. It's helping us advance and move this space forward.
We got to put the talent where we need it, where it's going to be effective.
Mm-hmm. So that's what Leo is.
So Leo, yeah. It's not like I can't help it. I'm old. I remember all those Austin Powers memes when Dr. Evil was like, Leo. They were always talking about Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo.
Yep. I definitely am not afraid to admit this. I FOMO'd into this at, I don't know, like $1.85 when it back a couple months ago, or a month ago or so. $1.85. I FOMO'd in, and then quick turnaround and sold the next pump at like $1.86 and got out of it.
Boy, good thing you did when you did, because
I know I just had a bad feeling about it. I didn't think the chart looked very good, and I had bad FOMO taste in my mouth. It sounds really, really bad, but I got out of it. Yeah. Luckily.
Hey, you know what? You got to trust your gut in those situations.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
You don't want to get burned, and it's so easy to do. I mean, like, there's all those memes out there, like, I turned $1 million into zero overnight. Like.
Exactly.
All right, last one for the top 5. AELF, AELF. I almost want to talk about Alien Life Form. There was an old sitcom with a little Muppet alien. I'm really dating myself now. But yeah, that's up 4.61%.
Wow.
ALF.
The ALF ROI, if purchased at time of launch, you'd be down 88%. That, Rip. Folks, is not good. No. But I tell you what. So what this is, it's has cloud computing. It does its cloud nodes and parallel processing. Supposedly, they're able to achieve secure transactions. So, like for commercial use cases, whatnot. So, another one I've never heard of. When I see the ticker ELF, I think of the movie with, my quote unquote stepbrother.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of, I guess.
Santa, is that you? Yeah. I know him.
Such a great movie. Bye, buddy.
Well, there we have it. The top 5 gainers. Now, let's take a little look at our top 5 losers. You want to start this one off?
Yeah, I'll start this off. So the top loser today is Ren Protocol at minus 6.64%. My buddy Crypto Messiah has been big on this, but if you got in from the beginning, your ROI would be or from launch, your ROI would be 38%. So still up on it, but down. The chart's not loading, so I can't really tell you much about the chart, but
It's
it is
got a
still
weird.
at
It's a big spike in the beginning. It just kind of hovers for about a year and then jumps right back up to where it was. So it's kind of like they're going full circle now.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was in Ren a while ago when it was first on IDEX, I believe, but I'm currently, I don't really hold many alts now. So when I say I'm not in them for these, don't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's an open protocol meant to enable permissionless and private transfer. I wonder what tech they're using for the privacy.
It's a good question. It's a good question. And I'm not a very techie person, at least with this stuff. But my buddy, give him a shout out. It's Crypto Messiah on Twitter. Just ask him, he'll know.
All right. Yeah, he's probably got, there's a lot of guys out there who do in-depth analysis of different projects, and then you get all of the nitty-gritty details of like, okay, here's how Ring CT works, or this is how ZK Snarks works, or this is, there's a bunch of cool privacy coins out there that, I mean, not mentioning Zell, but many others. I think my bias is towards ZK only because it's basically CIA worthy. Like if the CIA has weighed in on the type of encryption that's being used there and saying that like this is the best, I tend to kind of like, I'm American, call me biased, I mean, maybe I shouldn't trust the CIA. I don't know.
I'm sure there's people screaming right now listening, don't trust them.
Yeah, right.
They want you to use ZK.
Yeah, right, because they've got like the master key somewhere. No, it's just, I just think it's one of the more advanced forms of obfuscation. And of course, it sadly, it presents a ton of challenges for the team because whenever you want to enable private transactions, there's a heavy demand for processor and RAM, which makes it very difficult to do on a mobile device. And that's kind of the downside of it. So Monero is perhaps the next best thing for slightly more speedy transactions, but even that's kind of screwy because you have to have a partial node. You can't have a full node on your phone. You can still like proxy it to a server that has the full blockchain on it. So that's what we do with Zelcore. We have Monero in there, sort of a light version of Monero, but then that also takes a long time to see the transaction appear, because it's being processed off your phone. All right, now what's next on the list here of the top
so
5?
Ravencoin is
Ravencoin
number 2. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. It's down 4.58%, 4 cents. I mined Ravencoin back in the day and got out of it for a nice little pump. So I like Raven. It's an open source project. Works on peer-to-peer transfers of assets. I don't know. I just Bruce Fenton. Everyone I'm sure knows who he is. He's on the board. So, or he might have been a co-founder. But
him and Tron Black, right, was the other
guy. Yeah. So it's kind of hard. Bruce has been in the space for a long time, and it's kind of hard not to semi-support something that he gets behind, in my opinion. So I support it, like it. I know I mentioned the supply earlier. That scares me. This is probably the one or two projects that have a high supply that didn't really faze me.
Yeah, well, I looked at that myself and I thought, wow, I mean, how could that be profitable to mine? But I guess it had everything to do with block rewards, because if they set that at the right amount, then it does actually pay off. And the other thing is the reason they set that max supply so high was because they knew that it was going to take a lot of Raven transactions to create all these assets, and they're trying to make this a scalable global type solution so that any company can create assets. So it's going to be a need for Raven coin constantly, and they don't. I don't think the goal here is for them to have coins that are ridiculously expensive either. Could you imagine, having to pay 0.01 Bitcoin for something right now? To create an asset like that would just be silly. You would go like, no, why would I do that? So I think it makes a lot of sense in keeping the cost down for creating those assets, and then giving people opportunities to use them.
Definitely.
And of course, another one for Zelcore, we've incorporated the Raven asset layer into Zelcore. So for those people who have assets that they are invested in on the Raven blockchain, you can access those right through Zelcore. So it's a really nice feature that's built in. You can't issue assets yet. That may be something for the distant future, but at least if you have received them, if somebody sent you them, you could very easily receive them on one of your Zelcore addresses and access them right there. All right, who else do we got here?
So it looks like coming in third is V Systems at negative 4.4%. Again, some of these, this is the 27th ranked on CoinMarketCap, and never heard of it. Have you, Goose?
No, man, and it's like 458 million market cap.
Yeah, what the hell?
Steady rise too. Like it has been going up since June.
Yeah.
So, and a tremendous amount of volume behind it. So it's like, it's a supernode, proof of stake consensus algorithm. So maybe a PIVX fork or something. Let's see.
Yeah, their volume in one day was up 9 million. On the 19th of June, not even in 4 hours, 19th of June at 3 o'clock, it was 3.5 million. And then 4 hours later, it was 13 million.
Kind of makes you wonder, is this just like VCs were like, let's play with the market a little bit, dump a few million
exactly.
Here. They're like, let's see if we can make people freak out.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And maybe there's some reason out there, and I don't know anything. This is the first time I've heard about V Systems. So maybe there was something out there that came afloat.
It's interesting that it's down a little bit, yet it seems to be the one that's been most consistently on the rise, very bullish for the last almost 2 months now. So that's very interesting. See what happens. Maybe they're making some kind of deals with some payment processors or something, that because they want to get involved with DeFi. So see how that works. All right, well, who else we got here? There's a couple.
So number
others.
4 is UNetwork, and it's down 4.74%, which it would have jumped. Must have refreshed. But at the time it was down 4.33%. So, but this one's just coming off of a nice little pump here.
Yeah.
About 5 days ago, so it makes sense that it's down.
Now, this is kind of neat, though. Decentralized content, asset storage, notarization, distribution, publishing, and valuation network. So looks like it's going to be one of those contenders for some of the more decentralized social media platforms or publishing type platforms like Minds or DTube, these kind of places where, if you're going to put content there or something that you want protected via the blockchain, that will be another option. I don't know if they have everything, built out or whatever. Check out their website here, u.network.
Another interesting fact, if you would have got in at launch, you'd be up 375%. Not too shabby.
If only we had that kind of hindsight.
I think we might have went all in.
Yeah, right? Crystal balls, man.
That's right.
You ever been crystal ball shopping? Expensive. All right, well, that's pretty good. Interesting things going on in the crypto space, as always, and it's always good to kind of take a look at what's happening, top and bottom. And who knows? Sometimes the losers of today end up being the top gainers tomorrow. So it's
That's
so
right.
interesting to watch it bounce. But in the meantime, we've got a couple of interesting things going on with Zell. I thought I would kind of, get your thoughts on. First of all, was our new mining algorithm, and I just did a podcast with Miles a few days ago, and we were talking about Zell Hash and how beneficial that's been for the Zell community in terms of mining profits and stuff. I don't know if have you tried to mine Zell with the new algorithm yet?
I have not with the new algorithm. I did mine it early on per Dan's suggestion. So I still have a bag of it. And,
What kind of rigs are we talking here?
geez, this is gonna sound really bad. Daniel just kind of hooked me up there. The 1070 Nevada, or not? Sorry, what's? Hold on, let me
TIs?
pull it up. Yeah, TIs,
Okay.
1070s, I believe. So got
Well,
6 of them on a rig and just kind of hammering away.
that's awesome. I wish I had that because I was speaking of 1070s. That's exactly what Miles, the founder and CEO, is running right now. I think he's got, I think they're 4-space server rack units that he's got with
Oh, nice.
either 6 or 7 1070s in there, and that's what he's running on the Zell network. He said he's been hashing away for a year and a half now using the same cards. So
Yeah, and I want to give Miles a shout out. I met him in Philadelphia last summer. I mean, he's 17 years old and super, super smart. So he
yeah,
made me more bullish on Zell than anything.
yeah, and I think he's got the right kind of vision for Zell. He's not. Um, I mean, the interesting thing about Miles is that he's got perspective. He's got an interesting look at it from a business standpoint, but he also has
Hmm.
this like up and coming, fresh approach to it, which I love. And I think that, yeah, that's something that is definitely an asset in his pocket.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
So Zell Hash was a success for us, and what we noticed was that we've got more miners that jumped on the network because we believe that there were many more miners on Nice Hash, for instance, and mining rig
Uh-huh.
rentals that
Yep.
were just putting tons and tons of Equihash 1445 towards the network back then. And ever since the beginning of this month, they have not been able to do that. So now we see people either jumping onto their own rigs, or we're attracting new miners over to the network, which is a good thing because more miners means more decentralized, and we like that.
Exactly.
And that's really the point, right? Because when you have an algorithm that favors GPUs, then you know that more people can get their hands on those. So therefore, it just lends itself to further decentralization rather than ASICs, which can be pricey and hard to get, and not everybody has access. And I don't run an ASIC because they're just too noisy.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's just that mantra about him that I know some people, you either love them or you hate them. In my opinion, too nosy, too hot for me. I don't the cards I have now. I think the fan that I have blowing on them is louder than the cards themselves. So it's kind of nice. Can hide it
Yeah.
from my wife.
Okay, but you got to be careful there.
uh,
No more gaming, honey. Oh yeah, yeah. I'll turn down the gaming machine. Sorry.
you ordered another card for your gamer?
Yeah.
Yes, dear.
Oh man. Well, I know a lot of guys out there who have their significant others, their wives, and they're even now starting to get the wives involved, and they're getting excited about crypto because they're looking at it like, wow, this is something that you can earn money with, or you can
Right.
speculate a little bit. It's just such a great opportunity to just get involved in something that is up and
Yeah.
coming and fresh and different.
And so on the day-to-day basis, I deal with commodities a lot. So like corn and livestock and soybeans and stuff like that. And a lot of my most successful customers, their wives do all the grain marketing, meaning they sell and buy back and all that stuff because the farmer, the grower themselves are, they put their blood and sweat into this crop, and livestock, they're the ones doing all the work. And so they're attached to that commodity. And until I really started trading a couple of years ago, I never really understood how these guys could get that attached. I'm always like, sell it. If you can make money, sell it, walk away, don't watch it again. But now it's like, okay, shit, if I'd have held on to that bag a little bit longer, I'd have made this. Whereas now my wife is kind of involved, and if we have something that's up, she'll always kind of remind me, what do you always say to your customers? And I'm always like, yeah, I know. And so she kind of helps keep me in perspective. And also she's had if you've listened to some of the podcasts, she's had 4 calls that have been quite successful. She called the that you remember when Bitcoin Cash just went just crazy, that you woke up that morning in the United States and it like pulled like a 4 or 5x ripper. Maybe you don't remember that, but
was that
she
close to when it had first started, like
yeah
2017?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we
Oh,
had
yeah.
just had Roger Ver on Crypto Street podcast, and I went upstairs from my office and was just telling her about it, and she's like, you know what? Let's buy some Bitcoin Cash. And I was just like, oh my gosh, no way, we're not going to do that. It's the devil and blah blah blah, this and that. And um, then the next day, it pulls up and she happened to say, hey, did you see what Bitcoin Cash is doing? I told you should have listened to me. I'm like, oh, great. So she's called some pretty good calls.
I thought you were going to say you hit it big on that one. You stuck
No.
to your guns. Well, you know
Oh
what?
yeah.
I would say props to you for sticking to your guns and doing what was right. But that is probably the key lesson here. Never make decisions based on, like, make your decisions based on principle. I get that totally. But if you're all about the bottom line, never get your emotions involved. You have to be very cold and calculating about it. So if you're like, I know that I'm happy with a 50% gain on this particular bag, then that's your deal. Set it and forget it, walk away. I think that's the best way to stay sane in this space.
It is. And I know there's been numerous people we've talked to that have always said to, they and again, there's always that special circumstance where something's bottomed and whatnot, but they swear by, if they've made money off of a trade, they never re-enter that trade.
No.
And again, there is a special circumstance where if it appears like it's bottomed, it's at an all-time low and they wanted to get back in based off chart stuff, then there's that. But to chase another pump or something, they just stay away from it.
I think
I think
what are
there's
the
some truth
odds
to
lightning's going to strike twice? It's
exactly.
I think you just gotta walk away. So many people
exactly.
they like pump more into it, hoping that it'll just come back, and all it does is trickle out to nothing. And you feel bad, but hey.
Exactly.
Well, it's always cool to speculate on things, and there's always that chance that something is going to go up. And we have, at least with the Zell team, recently noticed a little bit of an increase because we just recently announced our partnership with Neo through the Zell Labs arm of Zell, which is a sort of a development arm where we work hand in hand with other developers from another project and try and find ways to support one another. So in the case of Zellcore, we have a platform, and it's available on different types of OSs. So whether it's Mac or Windows or Linux, Android, iOS, there's all 5 platforms in terms of operating systems. So there's a wide reach there for someone who wants to get listed. And what we're trying to do with Neo is support them in terms of getting the tokens out there, just like we do with Ethereum. We've got a ton of ERC20 tokens, and Neo has a ton of other tokens for dApps and stuff. So we thought, well, hey, let's work together on this, and you'll get more exposure to all these different operating systems, and they can trade the tokens right there inside of Zellcore.
Yeah, it's pretty slick.
Yeah, thanks. Do you have you followed Neo at all, or?
I mean, I've traded it. I haven't really followed much, here lately, I guess.
Well, there's one market that we're very excited about, and it is the Chinese market.
The Chinese Ethereum.
That's right, exactly. And they got a ton of dApps, like lots of different stuff. I mean, some of it is like gaming or gambling type dApps, but that's just one possibility. There's so many different things that could eventually be worked out, and there's a lot of other things that we're going to be looking at in the future, including putting the Zell node network to use. Right now, it's a massive computational network that's idling. Right, it's kind of like, you've got this, I don't know, this Dodge Viper, this V12 just sitting there like purring, waiting for somebody to step on the gas, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen very soon, and we're looking at offering VPN capabilities using that network. Yeah. So, and we're gonna put it together in a way that it's like the VPN will be a standalone app, and it'll even be marketed differently to different locations. So, for instance, somebody in Singapore, it'll be, all right, how do we best serve the Singapore territory, and come up with a cool name for it, but the back end will be Zell cores, or Zell nodes rather, proxies and whatnot that they can use around the world.
You guys are pretty rambunctious. I like it.
Hey, that's all Miles, man. You called it. He said he was a cool guy. He was a brilliant guy. Yeah, this is his stuff.
He's a whiz. Yeah. He is a whiz.
Cool. Well, once again, CryptoDale, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us on the Core podcast. Is there anything else that you want to say to our audience? Maybe give us another plug on where we can find you on YouTube and on the popular podcasting sites.
The main ones are Spotify and iTunes. You can just look Crypto Street Podcast. It'd be 3 words, Crypto and then Street Podcast. YouTube, we've got all of our episodes up there. Sometimes we will live stream episodes if we have a very a popular guest. We'll set up a live stream on YouTube. So we'll take questions from the fans and people that are chatting in there. So check us out. We kind of try and talk. We're pretty well trading focused. So a lot of our guests have. We've had a string of retail guests that are big into the retail trading. The NASDAQ stock market, commodities, stuff like that, and then they're kind of dabbling into crypto. So it's really cool to see their perspective on the whole crypto market versus the traditional market. I called it retail earlier, sorry, but it's really cool to see how they kind of coexist and how one's different than the other, and really get their perspective. Some of these people have been trading for 20 years plus, so it's pretty cool to see that. So again, Goose, thanks for having me. It's great. You guys at Zell are doing great things. Miles is a brainchild. I've said that before, and good buddy is buddies with Dan. So I appreciate everything you guys have done.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us. And for more information, like we said, check them out at Crypto Street Podcast over on YouTube. And if you'd like more information about Zellcore, as we like to call it, FinTech Redefined, check us out at Zell.network or over on Twitter at Zell_core. And until next time, you've been in the Core, powered by Zellcore Plus.